The daily word for Sunday, March 29th, 2020, inner peace. I find the peace of God in the silence within me. The Hebrew scripture tells the story of the word of the Lord commanding the prophet Elijah to stand on the mountain before the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by. As he waits, Elijah fails to find God as he endures a wind strong enough to split mountains, an earthquake, and then a fire. Then Elijah discovered God in a sound of sheer silence. Sometimes chaos surrounds me as I try to find the peace of God. Other times the chaos may be inside me. I persist in my efforts as I confront inner storms, fires, and earthquakes as I search for peace. Like Elijah, I remain steadfast in faith, undisturbed by what is happening around me. I wait for distractions to pass by. Peace is mine. And the scripture today is from 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 12. After the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And then after the fire, a sound of sheer silence. And for the meditation, if you would join me now and turn in within, not to shut out the noise, not to shut out the chaos, but to embrace it all. For within it all, there is a silent power for good that we can reach into that brings us to this place of peace. Sometimes we may find it difficult to find the presence of God in the noise. Oftentimes, we may find it difficult to find the peace of God in everything that's surrounding us. So I invite us today to go within and know that there is a loving Father, a divine intelligence that is ready, willing, and able to meet our every need and demand. And when we find ourselves unable to find that place, there is a psalm that we can sing. There is a prayer that we can pray that will bring us to that place of peace. So I invite you to join me in the Lord's Prayer, and afterwards there will be a moment of silence. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. And forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
Good morning and welcome. This is Unity of Orange County. As California enters its third week of self-isolation and we remain socially distanced, I thought to myself, what is it that is sustaining me through this time? What steps am I taking to keep me positive and energized? I'm sure I'm not the only one who has finally found the time to do that spring cleaning, to reconnect with loved ones via internet or telephone, and to finally write all those thank you cards I've been meaning to write. And all of those things have been a great distraction. But in preparing for my talk today, I wanted to go a little deeper. So I went within and I went a little deeper. And I thought about it. What is it that's really sustaining me during this time? What is it that keeps me grounded and knowing that when this is all over and we return to normal, that I am better for having had this time? And what I came up with is what is giving me an opportunity to connect more deeply with Spirit. And to know that God is in all things and that God is in this too. So it is faith that is keeping me grounded. Faith that is sustaining me. Faith that is my anchor in this storm. So today, it's my pleasure to offer you a little spiritual faith lift. And my goal then is to reconnect you with faith and its amazing healing powers. So what does it mean to have faith? And by the way, what do I mean by faith? Well, that can be answered in many, many ways. Faith is a process. Faith in our local government. Faith in our greater government. Faith in ourselves. Faith in others. Faith in God. And we can also use some synonyms for faith, such as love, trust, acceptance, and understanding. So I personally, true confession, have a little trouble with the concept of faith when I was younger, because I wanted proof. I wanted to know why, and I wanted the answers. And I was growing up and being exposed to this religious culture. I was just told to believe and not to question. Well, I had some issues with that. And as you can imagine, the nuns and the priests had issues with me having issues. They just kindly reminded me I was not to question, but do what I was told. Then thankfully, I found New Thought. And they said, come and ask questions and seek out those new meanings. Explore what is right for you. And oh yeah, we're based on science, so I can prove whatever it is you need to know. And one of the founders of a New Thought program, Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes, states it this way in his book, Science of Mind, on page 155. Faith is a faculty of the mind. It finds its highest expression in religious attitude, but always the man who has faith in his own ability accomplishes far more than the one who has no confidence in himself. Those who have great faith have great power. And also in the Science of Mind glossary, faith is defined as follows. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith is a mental attitude. It's so inward embodied that the mind can no longer deny it. Faith is complete when it is both a conscious and a subjective acceptance. In spiritual terminology, faith means a belief in the presence of an invisible principle and a law which then directly and specifically responds to us. Thy faith has made thee whole. So let's just take a moment and break this down a little bit so that we can really understand what I'm talking about here. So I'm sure most of you have heard the quote, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. The substance of things hoped for, in this instance, is our desires, our ideas. And the evidence of things not seen is our releasing of those desires and those ideas. Releasing them to the universal law with the assurance that they are going to come to fruition. And a more simple approach would be then when we plant seeds and we tend them and we water them, we fully expect that they're going to grow, right? We don't deny that they're going to grow up really, and be beautiful plants. We just take care of them and know. So it's the same for the seeds of our faith. Faith really is a mental attitude. So inwardly embodied that the mind can no longer deny it. So this is when we really get to that place of having this, what we call in New Thought, a spiritual prototype. We see the unseen as being done. And it is a spiritual prototype of what we desire. And when we can really get to that place and get in touch with that feeling, that's when that comes to fruition. And also, it's a belief in the presence of an invisible principle and a law which directly and specifically responds to us. And this is known in the metaphysical world as the law of attraction. You see, once we get really, really, really clear on what we truly desire, then we develop that spiritual prototype. And then we release it and we allow the law to bring it forth. And the law brings us what we desire. So another term we can use for faith is positive thinking. I'm constantly amazed at how the power that can be released when we simply change our thoughts to positive thinking. And another way of saying this is positive thinking is realistic thinking. We still see that we still see some that may dwell on the negative. That's certainly going on. But we positive thinkers, us New Thought people, us Unity people, we don't go there. we keep appearances of negativity in their proper size, in their little containers. And instead, what we do is we nurture them then with positive thoughts. And then they grow larger and larger in proportion with our lives. So the gospel then speaks to us of great power of faith. In the book of Matthew, we are told, by faith, we may cause a mountain to be moved. And in this, we can read the word mountain, not in the literal meaning of a giant mountain, but rather as a tremendous obstacle. Certainly, if somebody told me I could go move Saddleback Mountain, I'd probably have a little doubt. But if I could shift it a little to a tremendous obstacle, I might understand it a little better. So we all have our own mountains. Right now, we all have a mountain we've never faced before. So in this manual for life, known as the Bible, we're reminded that if you have faith, then nothing shall be impossible. So how do we begin this process of having more faith? How do we bring that into our life? Well, we begin first by releasing the power. And we do this by changing our thoughts. When we change our thoughts away from fear into positive, we no longer give that fear any power. We change our thoughts. And I think we've all heard of the term, change your thinking, change your life. I have a little magnet on my refrigerator that says, change your shoes, change your life. Which, worked for Cinderella, so it's all good. But, I want to stick with the change your thinking, change your life for today, right? But in this instance, what we want to do is we want to practice belief rather than disbelief. We want to hold on to the belief that faith is in our life. And what happens is you probably go along many, many times during the day affirming, I can't do that, or I cannot do this. I wonder how many times, really, we might say that. We might say to ourselves, well, I can't do that, and we don't even realize that we're saying it. Well, what happens then is we repeat these negative thoughts. Our subconscious mind will start to believe that. It will start to believe that that is our fact. And then when you start to really change your thought and you think, well, can I or can't I? Your subconscious mind will answer that you cannot, because you've trained it for that response. You've trained it to answer negatively. As you think, so you are. You have thought yourself into this state of disbelief in yourself. One of the greatest American authors of the human mind was philosopher William James. And he said, believe, and your belief will in time create the fact. I'm going to say it again. Believe, and your belief will in time create the fact. And the essayist and poet Ralph Waldo Emerson said, beware of what you want, because there is a strong likelihood that you will get it. So this is why we must place in our minds those positive convictions about what we do want, what we want to become, and what we want to be, and what we want in our lives. And when I stand here on the pulpit and I look out at the faces before me, I sometimes wonder whether anyone is suffering, anyone who is present is suffering. You see, it's not always discernible on the outside. We don't always know what inner frustrations we're facing or someone else is facing. What's really funny is that when I'm in a turmoil, apparently, I've been told, I wear it on my face. Okay, I don't see my face, so I don't know this for a fact, but this is what people tell me. Okay, so what has happened in the past is, I'd go to work and I'd have this inner turmoil going on, and my coworkers would say, what's going on here? I'm like, no, I'm good. Everything's good. Back to work. Everything's good. They're like, oh no, honey, there's something going on here on your face. What's going on? And then I would finally realize that that was what I was projecting outwardly, and I would let them in on what was going on so that they could maybe support me in that thing. They say that the mark of a sophisticated, intelligent person is to be able to keep the outside world from the inner turmoil. So apparently I haven't really fully developed that skill yet, but I'm working on it. I got lots of free time right now. We must realize, however, that even if we don't or cannot discern it on the outside, the general condition of feeling fear and anxiety exists here, and it exists now, and it is in many of us at this moment. So a university put out a questionnaire asking among 600 students who were taking the courses in psychology, and they said, among other things, to state what they thought was their most pressing, painful, personal problem. 70% of them indicated that their worst problem was a lack of courage or a lack of self-confidence. 70% is a pretty high number. So what do we think this results from? It may be that as a child you experienced things and you had doubts that came up. They made you shy and withdrawn, maybe reticent and bashful. And if you develop then such a state of mind as a child, you have always had this, and this is what you're living your life in, and you have to then do what it takes to change it. And we can do this then by taking charge and beginning to fill our thoughts with the healthiest, most powerful, most vital thoughts that we can even formulate. Our subconscious is very accommodating. It will send back to you exactly what you send to it. The law in which like attracts like is always there. So if you send out negative thoughts, you're going to activate negative influence and then draw them back to you. And then guess what? Negative results. On the other hand, if you send out positive thoughts, bright, resplendent thoughts of faith, you activate positive influences in the world. And then you draw back to yourself those positive results. Be thankful for what you have. Be creative. Be innovative. Think differently and positively. And spend this isolation time in an affirming, life-affirming, positive way. When life gives you a reason to cry, show that you have 100 reasons to smile. Face your past without regret and handle your presence with confidence. Prepare for the future without fear. Keep the faith. His Holiness the Dalai Lama says, faith dispels doubt and hesitation. It liberates you from suffering and delivers you to the city of peace and happiness. We must actively substitute these feelings of doubt and hesitation with those of faith in order to find peace and happiness we desire, in order to be delivered from needless suffering. And on the long journey of life, faith is one of our best companions. It is the best refreshment on the journey, and it is the greatest property that we can have. So as you can see, when we start to accept faith, new doors will open up to us. So let us then adopt the faith, even as tiny as a mustard seed, and begin to see the positive in our lives every day. Let us replace the old tapes of our childhood with new and self-actualizing tapes. Remember that the universe mirrors back to you that area in which you need to evolve. Is it compassion, love, inner peace, going deeper in your consciousness? What is the mirror showing you that needs to be worked on? Think about whether you see the challenges in your life as obstacles or opportunities. Either way, let's begin to free ourselves from any illusions. We shall always have challenges. How we see them is our choice. The human race is evolving to the realization that what is happening on the level of consciousness both precedes and determines what happens in the world. Let us resolve to evolve our consciousness to make the world heaven on earth. With each passing day, it's through the multitudes of doubts and fears as they grow exponentially, demanding that we show our strength. While it may feel as though we're being bombarded and that we can reel from one crisis to another, in fact, we are being called to expand our faith and our trust in what we hold to be true. And that is that love is the impulsion of the universe. We must know that we are eternal beings on the pathway of life, with certainty behind us, certainty before us, and certainty accompanying us all the way. In the words of Norman Vincent Peale, let us know that faith is the most powerful of all operating in humanity. And when you have it in depth, nothing can get you down. Nothing. Let's close with a meditation. I invite you to just sit comfortably for a moment. Start taking those wonderful healing breaths and center yourself. And then take a moment and just focus on your source, whatever you call it. God, source, spirit. It has many names. There is no power in my life on this earth other than the presence of God. I am safe and I am secure. Nothing can disturb the calm peace of my soul as I rest in the silence. I am guided forward one step at a time. I trust the indwelling presence as it guides me through every circumstance in my life. At this moment and in every moment, I am guided in ways that bless me and bring me forth to my highest good. I listen now for the wisdom of God. My faith is strengthened as I hold to this realization that I am a spiritual being and my wholeness comes from God. I bless my mind and body and give thanks that divine life is flowing through me. I am renewed in the silence. As I survey my life, I find evidence of God's good being present at all times and in all situations. I am confident that every need will be met at the right time and in the right way. Knowing that my thoughts are energy, I affirm only goodness and happiness in my life. I allow truth to flow through me. Before me, even as behind, God is and all is well. And so it is. Namaste.